It's the meeting.
Okay, good morning and Happy New Year. We'll start our commissioner meeting this morning. And we'll begin the agenda with the consent. Oh, we better start with the Pledge of Allegiance, I guess. Forgot that part. Okay, if you'd stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now, the first thing on our agenda is the consent agenda. Approval of minutes from December 16th, approve payroll, approve vouchers, approve ad for travel council and predatory management boards. Travel council. Okay. Approve ad for Buffalo Bill Dam Board, approve and sign financial disclosure statements pursuant to Wyoming state statute. We did add, in case the commissioners didn't notice, yesterday on the ads for travel council, we did include the Yellowstone representative position. That did have to be advertised also. It's renews March 1. So just you're aware of that.
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion on the motion?
Madam Chair, just a question on the board appointments I'm looking at their 3-year terms. And my book's showing they aren't even up until 2030. The latest term, the March ones are they were listed in 28. So 3 plus 28 is 31.
All of them are the same.
No, not all of them. They start at 26 and 25. Oh, 25 would be the one up, correct?
The Yellowstone one is, there's 2 up. Or travel.
County at large and Yellowstone.
So we're looking at, who are we replacing on the travel council?
Yellowstone and a county at large.
And Yellowstone was appointed in 26, so for a 3-year term. I guess that's my book isn't showing. What's that?
The Yellowstone appointment filled an unexpired term. From what I can look back in the records.
Oh,
Remember
okay,
that Rick left and Mike came in?
Yeah.
Okay.
gotcha. Okay. And under the Predator Board, same thing? Is are we filling an unexpired term? Because there's nobody within 3 years of it either.
See, I can't remember which one the greater board was, if it was at large or what.
Didn't we have someone resign or say they?
And that's possible. I just didn't know.
I can't remember our discussion. I guess we could approve the motion pending clarification on the Predator Board appointment. Does that work?
Sure.
Okay,
I'm amend
okay.
the motion.
So any further discussion on the motion to approve the consent agenda with the review on the Predator Board position? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Okay, the next thing on our agenda is elections for 2026 officers for the Board of County Commissioners, which would include chair and the vice chair. So.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to elect or to put Commissioner Stewart as chair.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second for chairman for Commissioner Scott Stewart. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair, if I may, really quick. I just wanted to say thank you so much for your leadership, especially as a new commissioner. Over the past year, it's been very helpful. And I think you've done a phenomenal job for the county. And I just think this transition at this time in the election year, I think is, it's a good time to have Commissioner Stewart step into the role. But I just want to reiterate what a great mentor and leader I think you've been. And thank you so much for all that you've done as the chair.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'd like to ditto that.
Thank you.
I do, but as we discussed about a year ago, I think it's very important that all commissioners have to undergo what you have went through, and hopefully you can have a little more free time.
Don't
to
tell him
show
that
the-
until the motion's done.
He's gonna get outvoted anyway.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Any other discussion on the motion?
I would like to thank you for what you did. And helping out with new people, and I do want to say that you'll continue to help out
Oh, maybe.
as
No,
well. Mr. Stewart.
certainly.
We appreciate you volunteering ahead of time.
Okay. No problem.
I know the vote's not cast yet, so who knows what's gonna happen, but I can say in almost 35 years in Park County, nothing degrading any of the other chair people, but I've never seen anybody more dedicated than you have been, and it's just, it shows, it's amazing, and I think that you need to talk to Rob about running again.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstain. That doesn't work here, Scott.
Madam Chair, as far as the vice chair, the one time he filled in, he did an outstanding job. So I'd like to nominate Commissioner Teal as the vice chair for 2026.
Second.
A motion and a second for Commissioner Teal for Vice Chair for 2026. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair, I'd just say, I think Commissioner Teal did do a good job the one time. Was it one time?
It was only one time.
He kept us on schedule, so. As long as he still keeps us on schedule.
It's herding monkeys. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Oh, are you serious? No. Okay, that's what I thought.
I'll do whatever.
Motion passes.
I help.
Okay. All righty, Scott, do you want to take over?
Mm-mm.
No? Well, you're up.
Again, thank you very much, Dossie.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate everything you've done.
You're welcome.
So start with Mango, Commissioner Mango, Commissioner liaison board liaisons.
As far as Mr. Commissioner, as far as the fair board is concerned, a lot of the discussion has been, well, they're already getting ready for next year's fair. And some of the discussion has been the entertainment that is being put on. Of course, you have the figure eight and the demolition derby. They're solid. They actually bring in money. And now there's discussion about some of the other events. One was the concerts, and we haven't been making much money on those. We don't make money on the concerts. But there's the fine line, and I keep repeating that, is the vendors expect us to bring people to the fairgrounds. And to just have the grandstands empty on a night is not good. So there's been discussions on whether you'd have like a talent show or boxing venue has been brought up. So those are still some discussions that are being put on. Tractor pulls, they want to put on a show again, but you don't make money on the tractor pull either, and they want some guaranteed money for it. So yeah, I think it's just something that we talk about every year. You know, how can we make money on the fair? I think that Billy's doing a pretty good job getting a lot of the free acts going, and that brings people in. But for the vendors, they want to know. So that discussion will be coming up again at our meeting coming up next week. As far as the Park County Rec Board, Parks and Rec, we've been bantering about, of course, we've had the problem with this audit situation. We've been bantering about how, you know, if we change our name, how would that work? We're gonna need some help with our county attorney with that.
He's looking into it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's a situation that they're frustrated with because they want to be compliant. They want to know, if they can continue doing this and they keep getting threatened by the state. So that'll be, I think it'll be up to us to come up with a plan on how to
Okay.
how they can go forward with this. As far as people coming in, there hasn't been as much this year as we've had in the past. And I think us advertising that there's not as much money available have kept some people at bay, but we still haven't heard from like the Little League and the Legion programs. We haven't heard from Cody softball. We haven't heard from a lot of different groups that we usually hear from this time of year. I think a part of the advertising ahead of time that we don't have as much money, I think that stops like the golf courses from coming in with big projects too. But we'll have another meeting coming up, and I guess there's already a couple people that are coming to give us a pitch on that. And they're doing their best to count the dollars, so they're worried about next year. So that's all I have.
Commissioner Small.
So as far as the Buffalo Bill Dam Visitor Center Board, I have not heard from them in this past year, so.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think they've met recently, and we are short one position now with the passing of Bill McCormick, so we will be advertising that and trying to fill that board.
Okay. CY Air, I think we did a recent update on CY Air, just still working on they're looking at funding and that kind of thing to just supplement the airport. Healthy Park County didn't make their last meeting, so that they're doing their monthly meetings, updating on health related issues, I think. And then the Shoshone National Forest, Lloyd, I haven't heard anything from them.
No.
And same with Court Supervised Treatment Program.
I think.
Does it?
Okay, Commissioner Mangold did the Fair Board, Library Board, as you're all aware, we're doing the punch list walkthrough next Monday, 2:00. So we'll see where it's going from there. We believe that substantial completion will be by the end of January. Not sure yet on an opening date for the library. Museum Board has gone to meeting kind of every other month. They didn't have enough business to meet every month, so they've determined, and by statute, it's okay with the county attorney that they only meet every other month. But just small things, some traveling tour things that they're doing and things that they're bringing into the homesteader and the things that the archives are doing. So that's been pretty good. They all do good work. Travel Council, as you know, they're looking for a new director. That's moving forward. They have a committee working on that. Forward Cody doing their thing. Health and Wellness Committee, I don't think there's any changes. It's still holding its own as far as our health insurance program goes. Funding is fine. Usage is about the same as normal, what we've seen in the past. PEP has a new leader, Michaela, and she'll start next week, I think it is. So we're having a few extra meetings to try to get everything up and running on that front. She is very familiar with PEP and very familiar with the Powell area, so that'll be good. She was a Vista with the group for a little while, so she's well aware of who they are. Urban Systems Cody has not met for quite a while. Again, Yellowstone National Park. I did have a conversation with Mr. Shawley on two things. One is the 911 situation, which is in the hands of the Yellowstone Park attorneys right now on that proposed contract. And the other thing is this appointment replacement as a Yellowstone rep on the Travel Council Board, which they're extremely happy with Mike Keller, who's doing it now from Xanterra. But we'll see what other applications may come in as we work through it. And BLM's been pretty quiet. They called just about doing some controlled burns, but that's the only thing I've heard from them.
Mr. Chair, my liaison assignments, the biggest concern of the district ones being weed and pest and predator board, their biggest concerns are funding, future funding, if you will, not knowing for sure what the next legislative session is going to do. So they're already making cuts, preparing ahead of time. So they're weed and pest wise, they're not going to be able to provide the services that they have in the past. We talked about that the last time go around. Predator Board will be waiting. They put together their budget. We'll see what ADMB does as far as funding. They've been holding their own in the past. And they can have the ability to adjust, the services and to my knowledge, and nobody says anything about any major issues with, wolves and coyotes or whatever. So that way, on moving down urban systems, similar to Cody, we meet once a year. Right now, we're still gathering money, moving forward toward the, is it Park Street entrance? There by the Allied Seed that they plan to redo. It's been in the works for 7 years. But it's a major project that's they need to build the funding up for that. So they are actually communicating with the irrigation district, because the biggest obstacle there is that irrigation drop in the canal that has to be done at the same time in conjunction with, and irrigation needs to get their funding at about the same time. There's a timing thing. The government shutdown that we had, did BLM wise and Forest Service kind of put us out of communication. And I would highly suggest that we, and myself included, as the liaison, reach out and try to get open communication back up with these, possibly even put together some kind of a informal meeting. Just it's very important. So, and that's, I believe, everybody on my list.
Might we see another government shutdown?
Pardon?
Might we see another
And
government?
it is highly I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it, but yeah, what is it? The end of January is the extension, so who knows?
Thanks. Yellowstone Regional Airport, we had that meeting with their consultant. They've sounds like they're on track with they got the poles down and kind of doing a different approach to maybe you'll drop that ceiling down to where they can have more flights coming in. Because most of the flights are delayed because they won't let them leave Denver because the ceiling's too low. So this will, if everything goes right, lower the ceiling, then they'll see more availability. But I'm sure you've seen that they did not get the contract out of Salt Lake. So that one won't, that other carrier won't be coming in. Historic Preservation Commission, I haven't heard from them. We did meet with Basin authorities in December, I think it was, down in Basin. I have more notes on that. I apologize, I didn't bring them, but they're sitting really solid. They got great reviews on audits and stuff that they've got going for funding. So all their numbers are looking great. They were pretty enthused about it. Nothing on my TC visitor. I haven't, nothing on Yellowstone. So, but that's about it. But I wish I had my notes on the Basin Authority, because they had some really good reviews, good stuff coming back on well, I know what part of it was. The state keeps numbers on all the counties and how they get people into the system. And again, Park County, or the Basin Authority, was probably one of the best in the state for numbers, getting people back into, with their parents and a lot of stuff that, and they're reporting. The average was about, I want to say, and don't quote me, 65 or 70% average on reporting times and everything, and they were up in the 90s. They're one of the best in the state for reporting. So Basin Authority's doing good. Other than that, that's all I have.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
One of the things that we usually do in January at this situation is if anyone has schedule changes or anything that doesn't allow them to keep doing the liaison things that they're doing, or if they want to make a particular change. And I don't know of any personally, but I didn't know if you wanted to open that up.
Yeah,
Make sure
open it up to anybody.
You're good.
I'm good.
Okay.
Just
Mr.
wanted
Chair,
to
there
make-
was also a discussion with the Park County Rec Board. We had a meeting at the golf course to have our end of the year dinner, which we all paid for individually. But in the past, that there have been some boards that aren't compensated having a dinner for those boards. And I said I would bring it up to the other commissioners But I said, for some, like on the fair board, they're compensated with a nice parking spot during the fair, or tickets or even beer tokens. Other, we do have like planning and zoning, it's actually paid, but for other boards, a dinner or it used to be, the county used to host like a dinner
Yep.
for these volunteers. What are your thoughts on that? I know, Lloyd,
My thoughts haven't changed since the last time we did it, and that is they're volunteers for a reason, and I don't think that we need to waste our money. Other taxpayer money, but it's not that they're not appreciated, but that's just my stance, but I'm open, that's why there's 5 of us.
That's-
Mr. Chairman.
So,
Commissioner Teal, do you think there's a different way or another way to thank them? I guess that's the thing, is showing appreciation for
Absolutely.
volunteering, but I don't know if there's another way to do that or without spending a lot of money.
Well, and I know, like with the sheriff's department, your search and rescue volunteers, but we always took it upon it to, and now they have a foundation over there. But we always put a dinner on for them because, I mean, these guys and gals are training every Tuesday and 4 times a month. So we looked out for them and bought them dinner. But now they have a foundation that kind of helps cover that too, but I get it, they're volunteers. I don't know where you draw the line.
Mr. Chairman, the other thing that we talked about, and I don't know if Colleen's chased it much yet, but we did talk about doing a board training with all of our volunteer boards, and I wonder if we could combine that with just some hors d'oeuvres or something. I mean, if for those that attend, I don't know that everybody would be there, but those that come in, we could do something light. But we did talk about having a board training so that they all kind of understood where some of the responsibility lies on some of the statutory stuff.
well, in the state, at one time, were requiring a 2-hour
Yes.
Yeah.
board training session, that they did voluntarily. They bitched about it, but they did it voluntarily. They weren't compensated for that either.
Right.
And a lot of these people have jobs and they had to take time off for them, to be a volunteer. I understand that some are compassionate for the boards that they serve on, and that is maybe their compensation, that they're on the board and they're doing their duty, as a volunteer. But, if you've got a board that meets once per month, at the end of the year, maybe give them $20 each for a meal or $30 each for a meal. I think that would be a just compensation.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not opposed to recognizing and showing appreciation. When we did have those, it seemed to me that you probably didn't have at least even 25% of the board members that served even show up to that. So, it's public information. And I don't know what it would cost, and there again, where do you put the level of how much do we spend to say we're appreciative, but maybe an ad in the paper, thanks to all the boards, the list of their names, and some maybe don't want that. I don't know, it's hard to say. But I mean, if you're serving on a public board, obviously your name is on, it's open to these lists are not secret. So maybe just putting an ad in the paper or sending them a thank you card once a year. I don't know I don't want to sound like the Scrooge here, but the dinners were nothing, to me, were a waste of money.
Well,
When we hit them.
we still buy legislators dinner,
Not this year.
that's sure. We haven't.
I'll fill you in on that later.
Yeah. Go there. Well, we'll take that in consideration and look into that.
Yeah, if anybody can think of maybe a compensation coming from us, besides dinner, maybe like you said, add the newspaper or maybe at least a thank you card
Mhm.
would be nice for
Sounds good.
some of these volunteers.
Okay.
Some of this, I'm gonna rely on Dossie too, on some of this, but designation of the official newspaper pursuant to state statute.
Mr. Chairman, we are required to designate a newspaper of general circulation within the county to publish anything dealing with the county. And therefore, we've done that the last few years. In previous years, that I've been here, we have actually done 2 newspapers of general circulation in the county. I think it was about a year ago. We went to a single because of the costs involved when we're talking about publishing minutes and that type of thing. So I know, when TT doesn't really have one, but Cody and Powell both do. And so that our decision is kind of between the Cody Enterprise and the Powell Tribune. Or both, whichever the commissioners decide to do.
We had that discussion, Mr. Chair, last year.
Yeah.
And we ended up going with just one
Mhm.
at that point. They seem to have okay writing.
Mr. Chair, or Commissioner Overfield, do you think that we don't have the same data that we had last year? I'm assuming that their circulation hasn't changed. The enterprise's circulation probably hasn't changed dramatically in the last year. It's just the reach to me too, is how many people in the county are getting which paper, because I do think the cost factors into it as well. So you want to reach the most people with the least amount of money.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
what we can do, and we did last year, and Kelly and I had this discussion a little bit, was we can ask them to provide us with updated information before the meeting on the 20th, whatever, the calendar's lost. Anyway, the second official meeting this month, we could ask for that updated information
And cost.
set aside, yes, and cost, and set aside a decision today until then,
I think,
if you want to do that.
Madam Chair.
it's gonna get better.
He was first.
Yeah. I agree with Commissioner Overfield. I think we need to do a little bit more homework. I will say though, when we chose to go to one, the idea behind it was overall cost savings, but the idea was maybe switch every other year. Now,
That came up.
we need to consider
Circulation.
circulation as well as cost as well. So I'm 100% for putting us off as far as any action until the second.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we delay a decision on the official newspapers until the next meeting this month, pending receiving further information,
Second.
I don't sure we needed motion for no action.
because it's on the agenda now, so.
Who's second?
Kelly,
So motion on the floor is to wait, hold off on today's decision until we get this out and get some quotes.
okay. We'll chase that.
We didn't vote. We need to vote.
Oh, yeah, we need to
Any
vote.
discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chairman votes aye, motion carried. I'm great. Development standards and regulations, I'm gonna rely on Darcy since she has the knowledge on this.
And I can continue to do that, Mr. Chairman, if you want, in being on part of the working group with Commissioner Simone. The tag is going to meet tomorrow. Again, toward the end of the month, we are still reviewing uses. I think we're through with residential and lodging and those kinds of things. We're moving into commercial. They moved a little bit into transportation last time.
Mhm.
So we'll continue to do that. Hopefully it'd be done with as much uses as we can by the end of January. I know planning and zoning is reviewing them also. Then we'll kind of have to compare notes as a board between their thought processes on these uses. And then the staff itself, our P and Z staff has been reviewing other information coming in from the consultant on subdivision designs and requirements, and that kind of thing. So they're moving forward. We still don't have anything that we are ready to pursue with the public at this point.
Okay, thank you. We have public comment.
Yes.
We don't have to necessarily wait on that.
No.
No, because it's not for, okay. So public comment for anything that's not on the agenda or agenda items. And if we have any public comment. Okay, if you would please come forward and state your name.
Happy New Year. Let's see. This has to do with,
Could you please state your name?
oh, I'm sorry, Wendy Annis.
Okay.
Of Clark. And, so I'm gonna give you a little background. I'm gonna make this brief. Approximately a month ago, Park County Works Department installed 4 new street signs on a privately commissioned dirt road on BLM property known as War Horse Road, the only access to the new Olacott subdivision in Clark. As a result, the intersection of Yellowknife and Warhorse now give an impression that these are county-maintained roads rather than privately out-of-pocket maintained roads. Our subdivision, Chief Joseph Estates, has an unwritten understanding that at 20 miles an hour, our road maintenance labor and costs are manageable. The appearance of the 30-mile-per-hour speed limit sign has caused an increase in speeding service trucks of all sizes on our private and BLM roads, and therefore an increase in maintenance costs to the residents. Common sense dictates that the speed limit sign should be removed immediately to reduce any additional damage to what has already been incurred.
Okay, and correct me if I'm wrong, commissioners, but I think we met with Billings or Road and Bridge this morning. And those signs are actually paid for by the developer, correct? The county tries to standardize the signs and they do, put up or help put up the signs, but it's all paid for by the developer. One of the issues that I can tell you for the speed limit signs, that's problematic in its own self by putting speed limit signs up on a road like that. So I guess I would open up to anybody else, but we were informed this morning, those are actually paid for by the developer, not the county.
Yes, and I understood that might be a possibility, but I don't think that the county should make a little bit of money and throw the residents under the bus, because we're the ones that are maintaining this road, not the county. And we would like to see the 30-mile-an-hour signs taken down.
Mr. Chair, I'm somewhat familiar with the road. And they currently have no speed limit signs, basically, and you're more into the law enforcement than I am, but her point is the people that have lived in that area under their covenants and their subdivision meetings have come to the agreement to slow the hell down because they pay 100% through various different private contractors to maintain that road. And by putting the speed limit higher than what their subdivision agrees to keep the maintenance down is one of the part of the issue here is the speed limit itself. It is directly outside, but you can literally see it from the corner of Yellowknife Road, I believe it is. So you assume that all of this subdivision, this road that they signage, they use about 1.5 miles of the common subdivision road, probably, I'm guessing.
Yes, yeah.
And then Warhorse splits off, and that's where the signs are. It's not on their subdivision, but it's right on the corner where you view it. And we can discuss more future, as far as the development and how much the county should do, and I understand we'd have to put, whenever we have more than 3 residents using a specific road, that has to be named. I mean, everybody maybe don't agree with it, but that's Warhorse comes up. So we're in charge of putting that. We're in charge of putting address markers for emergency services. But the rest of the signage, I'm somewhat in agreement with Wendy. I don't believe the county should be competing on it. It should be held on the developer themselves. And you can call it safety, you call it uniformity or whatever, but where do you stop with that? Culverts, cattle guards, fencing, everything. I mean, we put these conditions on the development when it comes through us. They have to meet our road standards, but we never go check them. So why are we putting them up to that specific? That's just my input.
Mr. Chairman, I'm wondering if this isn't a conversation that could be had as we move forward with number 1, updating the road and bridge standards when we talk about those things, but number 2, our subdivision standards and requirements. And I think this is a good time. It's not going to happen extremely fast, but it's a good time to work through those requirements on the subdividers and what it is. I mean, I understand the consistency from Public Works. I want all yield signs to look the same so we all know what a yield sign looks like. And I don't want somebody to have the ability to put something else up. But But if that's, we could have that discussion and make it part of our new subdivision regs and decide where Park County fits in it or where they don't as we move forward with regulations.
Mr. Chair, you're right, but it already is our rec. At the bottom, the last word condition
talking
of
about the
every
updated
one of
regs.
them says you must meet all other county standards. Regulations.
Talking about our updated regs, if we put it in the subdivision, when you're forming a subdivision and platting a subdivision, if there's rules in there about if there's a road, how the signage is handled. We might be able to put that
More
in there.
specific to us.
Yeah.
So is there anything we can do about removing that or covering that 30 mph? Because it's wrecking our roads already. Been 1 month.
Well, I would say that because they're privately owned, they might have contracted with the county to pay for them, but they paid for them, so the county doesn't own those signs. So the county, I don't personally, we'd have to check with legal counsel. I don't think we have the authority to remove them or cover them because we don't own them. They were purchased by an individual.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure we know whether their subdivision engineer did anything about speed study or any of that kind of thing, so we really don't know whether, normally when a speed limit is set, it's set through a speed study scenario, so whether they did that or not to make it 30, I don't know. But that might be a question for the developer to find out where that came from and why, if they did do a speed study, because that may give more information.
I can do that. Okay.
And the other question would be, are they even enforceable? Or do they fall
Well,
back on
it's
state?
certainly not, there's not gonna be a deputy sitting out there waiting
Right.
for somebody, the garbage truck to come through at 30 mph. And this is sort of what I expected is that I would have to go to the developer as well, but I wanted you to be aware that this is a problem out on
No,
privately maintained dirt roads. Yeah,
And we certainly appreciate you coming in.
yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Appreciate it. Again, Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Guess we don't have a lot going on till.
Nope, they'll be online.
It is a public hearing, No, it is.
No. It's just the.
Anybody else? Zach?
Um,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair. I know you guys sometimes maybe think this is a joke, but we're consistently getting over $100 every voucher on bottled water still. I think we need to remind our department heads, at least I believe the feeling was, we don't provide bottled water to our departments anymore.
Is it at the annex?
There are various departments.
Annex, landfill. The courts,
Road and bridge, landfill,
the courts.
annex. I mean, it may seem nickel and dime to you, but if we're gonna be starting to tighten our belt, I mean, I think I'm just not, it burns my butt when I review the vouchers and I see $64 going to bottled water for a road and bridge or any other department, then I pack my own damn water bottle when I go to work. Now, if there's an event, we discussed that,
Right.
understandable.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think we ever received the update from the testing on the Powell Road and Bridge shop after they put the cisterns in and were updating things. I don't think we ever got the secondary DEQ test. They were gonna do it to make sure everything was fine
Right.
after the piping and all that, but I don't know that we know that.
Right.
And I think that might be a little bit of a catch, if that water does not pass well because of old plumbing, not necessarily the new cistern, but old plumbing that it's running through. Those kinds of things might make a difference, but I think we need to know that. We need to know that the money that we spend on the cisterns and stuff is working. So,
Mr. Chair, so I don't think I was here because this discussion might have happened before January of last year, but did the other departments, they all have access to the water fountains, right? Is there, like Road and Bridge has it? I know they do because I use it. I know that this building does, but is there anywhere that doesn't?
well,
Besides the Powell landfill, but does the annex have water?
Annex has water. As far as, Mr. Chair, at the Road and Bridge over in Powell, they had problems with their water. And so we put in a cistern over there and they were getting some strings tested to begin with. And then we I guess I've been waiting for it. That it sort of went away, and I think they're the ones that are buying bottled water still out there. And then what do they turn in a voucher? Is that how it works? They go and buy it and then turn in a receipt. So I could say, I mean, we can't, if we requiring people to go work there and we have unsafe water, then we've got to have bottled water. You know, like, what's required. But as far as for the other departments, I don't see where we need to be paying for that.
Dawson?
Mr. Chairman, I also think there's a little bit of an argument or a change when it comes to district court and circuit court because of jury stuff. And what they do is they buy the small bottles to have those available cold for jurors that come in and they're there for 6 or 8 hours. They don't necessarily tell them bring your own water. So there may be a little bit of leeway in the court situation, but that's about the only place I can see where it's the public coming in. It's not employees that they're buying it for.
You
It's-
don't want people going into court with weapons.
Well, that wasn't my thought, but
Yeah, and I tend to agree with Lloyd, though. I have a problem too with the bottled water. I mean, you bring your own water, you do whatever, but I think the requirement is if we've got people stationed in these buildings that I think we need to check on that is I've got a note here to talk to Trevor and figure out where that test is at.
Okay.
Okay.
Because I mean, we all have water sources at home, I'm sure, so we can
Yeah.
bring water, but yeah, we need to check. I'll check with Trevor on that testing. And we'll look more into it. I'll talk to the courts to see what they're doing with water.
Okay.
Thanks, Lloyd. Anything else? It's like we've got Alex here. Waiting on Jason. Or Alex, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you guys hear me? It'll just be me.
it'll just be him. So we're
Oh,
not
okay.
waiting on Jason.
Alex, welcome. Go ahead and continue.
Awesome. Can you guys hear me good?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Am I able to share my screen and I'll share the report as I'm going through it? Let's see if that allows me. Is that big enough? Bigger, smaller?
Bigger would be great.
Does that work?
Sure.
Awesome. Hey, well, thanks for having me. I know this is always an exciting presentation for everybody. To go through, a 62-page financial report. So especially after the holidays, right? So hope everybody had, great holidays and we're back in business now. So yeah, I just wanna, we've completed another successful audit this year. And during this presentation, I'll go through the 3 different reports that we issue, which is a report over financial statements, a report over internal control, and a report over your compliance with uniform guidance, which is also known as a single audit. And then on top of that, I'll go through some financial highlights for the year. I know you guys want me to probably go through each and every page, but I'll just kind of skim through the important stuff if that's okay with you.
Sounds great.
So to start, let's jump over to our financial statement report. It's page 1. Just a few pages down. So this is our opinion over the financial statements. So in it's 3 pages, but there's only a few important paragraphs in here. So the first section is our opinion. So it talks about what we're opining on, and which is your financial statements, right? The numbers in this report. And then the second paragraph here is our actual opinion. And I'll go ahead and just read that. So in our opinion, the accompanying financial statements present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities, the business type activities, the aggregate discretely presented component units, each major fund, the aggregate remaining fund information of the county as of June 30th, 2025, and the respective changes in financial position and where applicable cash flows thereof for the year ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. So that's a real long sentence. It's long-winded this is a clean audit opinion. We didn't have any numbers in this financial statement that we feel or that we identified that were materially misstated. So that's always something you strive for, and I think that we get each and every year. So um, that's for sure the most important part. The rest of this report is just a little bit of background information. What is management responsible for? And it's pretty basic. Management is responsible for the financial statements, right? It's not the auditor's financial statements. We just issue an opinion over the financial statements and the numbers and make sure they're complete and accurate. But at the end of the day, it is management that's responsible for the numbers inside of this report. And then it talks about what the auditors do. So, in short, the what we do is that we are responsible for obtaining reasonable assurance as to whether your financial statements are free from material misstatement. And that's a key word in there is reasonable assurance, right? It's not absolute assurance. We can't guarantee every number is perfect in here, that the disclosures are perfect. Um, However, we do provide a very high level of assurance. We don't test 100% of your transactions, but a little background on an audit is we come in, we perform a risk assessment. We say, hey, what areas should we focus on this audit? And then from there, we go about doing our procedures. We do in-depth procedures. We do high-level analytic procedures. Some of the detailed procedures that we do perform each and every year is we test hundreds of your expenditure transactions to make sure they're properly approved, that they are properly recorded. We send confirmation letters to third parties, such as your banks and your funding sources, to make sure that your bank balances in your accounting system are correct, and that the amount that you have recorded is received from a grant is matches your accounting records. So we spent over 400 hours on this project to be able to come up with that opinion that we went over on page one, that these are reasonably stated financial statements. So, any questions on the financial statement report?
Doesn't appear, no.
Awesome. So, I'll dive in before we get to those other couple reports that I talked about that are our reports. I'll kind of follow the layout of the financial statements. So after our report, it comes in is the financial statements. So government accounting can be a tad confusing. There's a lot going on here. So page one is the government-wide statement of net position. It's a balance sheet. It's a full accrual basis. You have all of your assets, all of your liabilities. It includes all of your governmental funds, all of your enterprise funds, and then it also has a column for your total component units. I don't like to dive into too much detail on this one. But you can see you're in a pretty, like, for your governmental activities, you're in a healthy net position, which is like an equity position essentially of $91.7 million, which a lot of that is tied up in fixed assets or long-term assets of 68.6. So unrestricted net position for government-wide financial statements is $21.3 million. Um, Yeah, and I'll dive into this business type activities is the landfill. We'll go over that in a little bit more detail later. So jumping forward a little bit, um, standards require that we also present on what's a modified accrual basis. They don't like to make things easy. Like they have essentially three different bases of accounting just to make your lives, a little bit more difficult and confused of what this report's all about. But the one thing I do like to on is this statement of revenues and expenditures. This is really kind of the view that you more budget on. There's a little bit more to it than that, but because you pretty much operate on like a cash basis, and this incorporates more of your current assets like receivables and your payables. It's not just strictly a cash basis presentation. And so I do like to focus on this statement here. I like to start at the bottom. So for all of these funds here, there's four of them, which make up your total governmental funds. You can see that you had a net loss of $5.3 million. So when we're comparing that to the prior year, right? I want you guys to understand the fluctuations from year to year. And it's not always bad, right? Just because there's a deficit in the current year doesn't mean it's bad, right? Last year you had a 2.9, or sorry, yeah, it was a $2.9 million surplus, and this year was the $5.3 million deficit. That's a pretty big swing. It's $8.3 million from the prior year in terms of profitability. And the biggest components of that is really more it's more on the expenditure side. There were a few fluctuations on your revenues. So on the revenues, it didn't change. It was pretty consistent with the prior year. However, within the totals, there were some fluctuations. So like your intergovernmental revenue was down $1 million. You spent less money in ARPA. So you had $3 million decrease in your ARPA revenue from the prior year. Um, there was also, however, that was offset by a $2.5 million grant that you got from the POW for the POW library construction in the current year. You had other income that increased from the prior year by about $1 million as well. And that was just due to the sale of the 4 motor graders and equipment that you had during the year. Kind of not a normal thing, but that was something that happened in the current year. And then your interest income from the prior year did decrease by $568,000, which was mainly due to as you're spending your ARPA funds, now you have less money in that investment account. And so you're earning less interest off of that account, which is really obviously expected. And then on the expenditure side, in the current year, you have $44.4 million of current year expenditures. And in the last year, there was 36.3. So that's why there was a big decrease. You spent $8.1 million more than you did in the prior year. And it's not, like I said, not something too concerning. I think most of this was expected and budgeted. So there's a few components of those big fluctuations, right? So the biggest one is you spent about $5.5 million more on the out of the county road construction fund for the Willowwood Road Rehab project. On top of that, you did spend $3.6 million on the Powell Library project. You did decrease your ARPA expenditures from the prior year, as I stated early, by about 3 million. But then also you had payroll related costs that increased by $1.2 million, which sounds like it could be a lot, but it's only a 5% increase from the prior year, which you had a few more employees and then you had some standard COLA adjustments associated with your salaries. So nothing to add the normal there. So any questions on this statement and the highlights?
No.
So moving along, jump forward a few more pages to the landfill activity. So here's the operating revenue and expenses associated with the landfill. Your operating revenue did increase slightly, but that was due to this 391, this other income, which was from a insurance claim on a compactor that had been I think it tipped over during the year, so you need to do an insurance claim and replace it. And then on the operating side of things, last year there was $3.1 million, and the current year is 3.9. The majority of that increase was due to the opening of the phase 2 cell out at the landfill. And those are the highlights for the landfill and enterprise activity. Everything else seemed pretty similar. Moving forward, there's a few other statements that you could go over. And then after the financial statements, it gets into, if you're not familiar with like the structure of this report, it shows the main financial statements, then it gets into footnotes. So these footnotes is really good information. It's background information on the entity. It talks about your accounting policies, a lot of accounting lingo in there, and then it also has really good detail, a little bit more detail on some of the balances on your balance sheet or your statement of financial position or net position. It shows, how you went from your beginning balances on your capital assets to your ending balances. So I won't go through any of this in detail, But I just want to let you know, like it's there, and I do recommend that you go through it in detail yourselves. And if you do have questions, I'm more than happy to, receive a phone call or an email and respond to that, just to give you a little bit more insight if necessary. So I'm going to actually jump forward a few more pages to what's called our supplemental information. So after the footnotes, we get into supplemental information that is just obviously supplemental to the financial statements. So that can be found starting on page 38. So the first statement here is your budget for the general fund. So you can see the second column is what your final approved budget was for revenue. Your final approved budget amount was $38.3 million. You received a little bit less than expected, which was 34.8. On the expenditure side, you had budgeted 42 million, but you had only spent $32 million. So, um, obviously inside of state statute that you don't overspend your budget. And that was kind of expected with some of those increases that we were talking about earlier. The next statement is for your county road construction fund. And you can see that you received a little bit more money than expected, and you had trued up your budget to actual um, from $6.5 million. So that all looked good. Moving forward again, the next statement I kind of want to touch on is, there's really good information about your net pension liability on these schedules. Obviously, go through those. If you have questions, reach out, like I said earlier. And then it talks about the component units and their financial position. Those all look good. The one thing I do probably point out that you're like could be alarming to you is why does the library have this negative like fund balance or net position? And the reason for that is because of what's called this net pension liability. Not sure if you're too familiar with it, but this is kind of there's a standard in accordance with government accounting standards that's requiring that the participants in a pension plan have to recognize their portion of the state's liability. So, like if you want to like big picture, like I typically would recommend that you back that out of your analysis because it's never going to be, in my opinion, a true liquidable liability for you guys. It's just a standard that you have to comply with. I know you've seen this in the past. So when you're just looking at it, you can realize like it was about $1 million. So if you remove that from this analysis, you would be in a positive net position. So I just don't want you guys to be concerned about that. And then the next statement is the schedule of expenditures of federal awards. So this is really important. So this is based off of how much you've spent under federal awards, not what you've received. So what you've spent for the total year under federal awards was about $7.8 million, which is a good chunk of change. A lot of that is due to COVID funding still. In the current year, you had large amounts of coronavirus, this local assistance tribal consistency fund, and of these, we did test. We are required. So if you do spend more than 750,000, you are required to have a single audit. And in the single audit, we test compliance associated with your major programs. We don't test all of the programs. We test the ones that we're required to test. And the two that we did test in the current year was this coronavirus capital projects fund for the library. And then we also tested this substance abuse mental health service administration. And then we do issue, I'll go over the report in a few minutes, but we do issue an opinion over compliance over those major programs. Moving along is now the other two reports that I talked about earlier. This is our report over your internal control. So one thing I do like to clarify, which is detailed out in this paragraph, it says that because you are a government, we're required to perform our audit in accordance with government auditing standards. which means that they require that we analyze and understand your internal controls for the procedures that we perform for our audit. A misconception is that we express some sort of assurance or an opinion over the fact that, hey, are your controls operating effectively or not? That's nothing that we do. We don't issue an opinion over the effectiveness of your controls. We do look at them, and if we feel like, hey, you have deficiencies or areas for improvement in your control system, then we are required, sorry, to report those deficiencies and provide recommendations. So in the current year, we did have just one, what we call a significant deficiency finding, which I'll go over in just one moment. So that's essentially that report. The next report is our report over the single audit, like I described earlier. On this report, we actually do issue an opinion. So in this second paragraph, we do state that in our opinion, the county complied in all material respects with the compliance requirements referred to above that could have a direct and material effect on each of its major federal programs for the year ended June 30th, 2025. And like I said, you did have two major programs, which was the Coronavirus Capital Projects Fund and then the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Grant. And those were the two programs that we tested, and happy to announce that we didn't have any findings. We didn't know any non-compliance. I think you guys did a really good job with your, adhering to the compliance requirements associated with these grants. Moving forward, the last statement here is what's called a schedule of findings and question costs. It's really just a summary of what we just went over on those last few reports. So it's just going to say, hey, what kind of opinion did you issue? Was there any findings? There was no material weaknesses. We did have one significant deficiency that I'll go over. There was no other non-compliance. And then over your federal awards, as I stated earlier, there was no non-compliance, no significant deficiencies over your internal control. It lists out the major programs that we tested and what your threshold is for single audit in type A, type B programs. And then following that dives into the actual findings. So on this report, for this schedule of findings, I will read this condition. So this is what we found, is what the condition is. So during our testing over fixed assets or capital assets, we identified the following errors in the county's capital asset recording and related depreciation schedules. So there were multiple depreciation calculation errors out of your system, including this one asset, where the depreciation calculation error resulted in an understatement of accumulated depreciation of $420,000. It was a weird glitch in your system. Even though it's like a system glitch, we do recommend that you review your depreciation schedule before it's provided to us for audit and just make sure there's no glaring errors in that schedule. So that's essentially the recommendation for that. There was CIP, what stands for construction in progress. Additions totaled approximately 615 that were not included in the county's CIP schedule. So the county and management gives us a schedule of projects that are in process, and we test those. And during our other testing, we noted that there was amounts that were not included in the schedule provided us. So the recommendation there is like they're reviewing their CIP schedule, and what's best is they're updating that periodically throughout the year instead of trying to do it like on an annual basis. Because if you're just doing it once a year, it's a lot of work to go through and just update it at one time. Best practice would just be, hey, as stuff is coming through, add it to your schedule and just track it appropriately. Not too concerned because, I do want to give management credit. Like there have been some errors in the past and they've done a really, really good job at improving their management over capital assets and the reporting. It's just, we're still finding a few little errors and we just want to make sure that you're making those improvements and betterments each and every year. And then there was assets disposed in prior years we're not removed from the depreciation schedule provided to us. I think this is a simple one. I think it's just knowing what report to run out of your system. So it's, if you got to get with your system consulting people out there to understand what reports that are the appropriate reports to provide to us. That's maybe something that needs to happen there, or just kind of get a little bit more familiar and figure out what's the proper report to send over to us. So, not too concerning, but given all these combined, we consider this to be a significant deficiency. We want, there to be some improvements going forward. So, yeah, any questions on this finding?
No.
Awesome. Well, that wraps up my report. I think the last thing I do want to say is, like I said earlier, like we put quite a bit of time, hundreds, over 400 hours of our time into this audit, but that doesn't include the thousands of hours that are required from your staff, Colleen, Barb, Han, Steve, Annie, Bobby, and anybody else that was involved in this audit process. We really appreciate working with you guys, and I think you do a really good job at, responding to our requests and making it easy to, complete and fulfill this audit requirement. So thank you very much.
Alex, I've got a note here, that from Hans. I'll let him explain it to you.
Yeah.
Well, Alex, I just wanted you to hang on until we get that go through that control or the the cap policy just in case we have any questions on that.
Yeah, for sure. But any other questions on the presentation?
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Alex, I'm here at the taking minutes today. This is Hans. And I just wanted to say, I think I could speak for our office and say that we really appreciate Carter, Floric, and James and the job that you guys do and the technical assistance that you give us throughout the year and not just at audit time. They're always responsive and always there for us. And I just want to thank Jason and Alex and all their crew. I can say from my perspective that they are consummate professionals and they're extremely good to work with.
Thanks, Hans. Appreciate it.
Well, then do we want to go into this fixed asset?
Mr.
Go
Chair,
ahead, Kelly.
Mr. Chair, I just have a quick question. Alex, and I don't mean to catch you off guard. So I'm going to preface this question with I'm the newest commissioner. And so excuse me if I do catch you off guard, but we hear a lot about county reserves, that how they should be used and how much we have. I'm wondering, can you speak to if there are accounting guidelines for governmental entities or recommendations on how much county should, like what percent they should keep in county reserves and what you about the amount that we have? I mean, does it seem appropriate for what our needs are, I guess? If you could speak to that.
Yeah, I can't speak on it a lot because that's more like management decision, right? But you do have to pay attention to if there's any state statutes out there that require like a limited amount. But as a county, I'm not aware of the limitations of a reserve amount, right? The thing you have to discuss and talk about is, over the last, it's been a crazy 4 or 5 years after COVID. And so it's like you've had this, injection of funding from all these grants. And so we're not quite in normality, right? So I think over the next few years, it'll start to settle. And then there's also other things that's coming down the line in terms of potential changes in, the funding model for property taxes. So I can't give you a good response on that because each and every year it's like you don't have to have like a perfectly balanced budget. It's like depending on what projects you have coming in, do you want to budget a deficit for that year? Or depending on what you want to do in the future, do you want to budget a surplus? So it just depends. Like this isn't my decision, but it's really important to look to the future, which you guys do, and understand, okay, what are we facing in the future? Do we need additional funding, or are we at a pretty good spot now where we can start dipping into some of our reserves? But every organization is different and their needs are different, so I really can't tell you for you guys if your reserve balance is good or not. Sorry, it's kind of like not a great answer for you, but I think the what I'm telling you is like, it takes a lot of questioning and deep dive into what is projected for the future to determine if your reserve balance is decent. You could also, do some comparisons to other counties at your size and just ask around to see if it's appears reasonable. And because I don't know everything of what's going to be happening in the future for your county, right? We're auditors, we look at the past. We are typically not looking in the future. And so, um, yeah, those are kind of the things that I would recommend as a board that you should be paying attention to is like what's coming up in the future. Do we need a budget a deficit? Do we need a budget a surplus this year? So,
Mr. Chair. So Alex, if I summarize what you're saying, there's not an accounting guideline on recommendation for so much of your budget towards operating the county.
there's not.
There's
There's
not.
not. Unless there's a state guideline that I'm not aware of for a county, and I don't think there is, unless I could be wrong on that, but from my understanding, I'm not aware of one. There are for like school districts and other organizations, but for a county, I don't think there is one specifically.
Mr. Chair, when I was at the city of Powell, our auditor suggested we have an 8-month surplus at that time, for emergency.
Right.
And looking at our numbers, we're teetering close to a little over 5.
Yeah.
So we're, if you go by municipalities, it's, we're
5 months.
yeah, we're not looking great, as far as emergency funding is concerned. If that's what you're looking at.
That's what I'm looking for. Yeah.
Yeah, so at the municipalities, they said 8 months, you're pretty safe. So
Kind of just going back to that, I mean, your ending fund balance for the general fund was 29 million, right? So, and your total current expenditures for the general fund was 34. So you'd have a, a little bit more than that, right? If I'm looking at that right. And I don't know what reserve balance you're pulling from exactly. Are you just talking general fund or just the total?
total fund.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I was thinking. Our reserve fund's around 15 million right now is kind of where we've had it for the last few years.
Oh, okay. You're talking about like an emergency reserve fund?
Right.
Yes.
Right. It's not.
Okay, but there is still funding on top of that that hasn't been assigned or whatever. It's just unassigned to other items, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, in terms of concern there, like, I mean, like I said, like your budget for the general fund was 34 and your ending fund balance, which let me look at the restrictions on that. So I can show you. Let me we're still on my report here. So on the statement of net position was just like a balance sheet. I think these are kind of some of the numbers that you want to focus on. So your unassigned fund balance was 26. This $2.2 million represents money that's already been spent associated with inventory and prepaid. So it's not actual available for spending because it's already been spent. It's this 26.7 number that you should be focused on. So that's kind of what you're sitting at as available reserves. But for you guys, you set aside a piece of this for emergency reserve is what you're saying, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And then on top of that, so with this ARPA grant fund, I just want to point out that you have accrued interest on your ARPA funding over the last 4 years. So normally with a federal grant, if you accrue too much interest, you have to send it back. But the awesome thing about the ARPA funding is that you get to keep the interest that you've accrued and earned on these deposits for ARPA grant. And so what you have accrued is about $1 million, which I think what's going to happen is one, you have completely spent the ARPA fund. There will be a residual amount of interest that will be moved over to the general fund as well. So that is something that will happen after the ARPA fund is fully spent. But that's what this number represents, is it's unassigned in this ARPA grant fund, which represents interest that you guys have accrued, but you haven't moved over into the general fund.
Gotcha.
Makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I don't think so.
Alex, can you stay online for a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, consider approval of the new fixed assets and capitalization policy.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Hans Odie with Park County Clerk's Office. So we've been working with Steve Pomeisel, myself, Carrie Smith. We've been working with Carver Flork and James, but more specifically Alex and Jason on our fixed asset policy and getting that updated. The last time that was updated was in 2015, so it's been a while. We spoke to the auditors regarding our capitalization floor or the capitalization threshold, and they've actually recommended to us. Our previous capitalization threshold was $5,000. So anything that we purchased that was $5,000 or greater, it is what we would capitalize and put into our fixed asset listing. They recommended, and we agree, we've been talking about this for a year or so, to ask the commissioners to increase the capitalization threshold from the $5,000 to $10,000. And that would be on heavy equipment, vehicles, computers, furniture, things like that. And then all the land transactions, anything over 50,000. We had a pretty low threshold on land transactions, which I mean, any kind of land transaction that we're going to make is going to be over that $50,000 anyway, probably, unless it's an easement or something like that. And then actually our road and bridge staff, engineering staff will track that easement on their, at a micro level rather than on our fixed asset schedule. So the fixed asset procedures are designed to acknowledge Park County's intent to manage our financial affairs and in a manner consistent with established GAAP policies, which is GAAP is the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. So like I said, we've worked with the auditors on this. We've gone through and updated some of the definitions and streamlined some of the definitions and looked back at GASB, which is the standards for GASB 34 is the standards for assets. And so we've looked back at those to make sure that we're more in line with those. We did send this to Alex, and he made some comments and asked that there were a couple of things that we changed in here,
One thing that we do want to make sure in the depreciation schedule that this is retroactive back to July 1 of 2026 so that we have the full fiscal year under the same standard rather than half a year at the old standard and a half a year at the new standard. I think that would be difficult for the auditors to reconcile and for us to track. So it'd be best if we could get that back to July 1 of 2026.
1 second, 25.
Or 20, yeah, 25, my apologies. 2025. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, I wrote down 26. I think that's it. I would stand for any questions, Mr. Chairman, if you have any. Good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only thing I have under buildings improvements, which is the little number 1, as roof windows, remodel and additions. I'm not sure about our timing, about when our system, when we finished with the courthouse and the public works building and those kinds of things. Are they gonna fall in the new?
Mr. Chairman.
That's good.
Commissioner Oldfield. So they would fall under the new and they're all well over the $50,000 anyway. So I don't think there's going to be anything that would fall under that we wouldn't then capture. We can review that. That's a very valid point that is well taken, and we can review those as we come across them. But I don't believe that we're going to have anything in that period that, or in that threshold that's going to be under that.
Okay.
Mr. Teal.
Mr. Chairman, Hans, just not real. What's an intangible asset you have listed? So give me an example.
So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Thiel, an asset obtained by the county which lacks physical substance is not financial in nature and has an initial useful life extending beyond a single reporting period. Intangible assets are addressed in GASB 51. Intangible assets include non-monetary assets such as easements, rights of ways, software programs, water rights, that type of item.
Okay.
Any other comments?
Alex, did I hit the high points there?
Yeah, I mean, the point of the increase, right, is there's for any standard that the Government Accounting Standard Board comes out with, you're allowed to perform a cost benefit analysis, right? So if you're saying, hey, this to apply this standard is more costly than the benefit that we get out of it, then you can make certain modifications or thresholds to, comply with that standard. And so the whole point of this is they feel like they're spending way too much time on tracking small assets. Then if you can create a higher threshold, then you're focused on assets that are a little bit more significant and you're spending less time on tracking these little small things. So it's a cost benefit thing. That's the whole point of it. Which your threshold is compared to other organizations as your size was a little low. So that's all we did was we recommended to be more in line with the industry.
Any other questions?
One quick, Mr. Chairman. So building improvements, that seems a pretty high threshold capital. I'm just 50,000 for a building improvement is substantial, but I mean, we have a lot of minor building improvements that are in the 20 to 30,000. So those are not going to be depreciated. Is that how I'm understanding this?
I thought it was land transactions.
So, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Hans.
Commissioner Thiel. So building improvements such as what you're talking about in a $20,000 item, what we've been taught by our auditors and by what we've found in GASB circulars is that building improvements that are capitalized are items that substantially increase the life of the building. And so, you know, a $20,000 improvement to a building, you know, we may not be able to replace all the windows in this room for $20,000. And it's not necessarily increasing the life of the entire building by doing that. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm not sure I agree with you, but
I mean,
Um,
if you did only this room, you're bettering this room, but you're maybe not bettering the entire building.
so what is the, I mean, I guess
But-
what my question is, by raising the threshold and not tracking those, you may call them small, but these are pretty substantial repairs, whether it's windows or a section of roof. Those improvements increase the value of that. And what is the downfall of not tracking that? Are we not being able to write these off, depreciate it, or what? I mean, I'm trying to split the difference between government and you know, private entity. I would be chasing these improvements.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Thiel, Alex, could I ask you to jump in on that at all? If you,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, thank you.
So the implication is that you just expense it in the current year instead of capitalizing it and taking expense over the life. So if you capitalize it, you put it on as an asset, you don't expense it, and then you depreciate it over the life. So what you're essentially doing is you're just accelerating the depreciation in a current year. So if you want to talk about like tax accounting, it's like you're taking like accelerated depreciation, it's, you know, section 179, you know, on an asset, so you depreciate it quicker is essentially what's going on. You're just taking it in 1 year rather than, you know, spreading out that expense over 5 years or 10 years.
Yep, Mr. Chair, thank you. That I was thinking we weren't doing it at all. So
Yeah, it gets expensed.
anything under 50,000 in 1 year slump. Right. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Alex, you have anything else for us?
I don't. No. Thanks for having me.
We appreciate your time and helping us out. Thank you
Yeah,
very
no
much.
problem. Yeah, we've already submitted the report to the state, so you guys were on time. So I don't know if you still go through a formal process of approving the audit, but
Mr. Chair, I move we accept the audit of Carver, Floric, and James CPAs as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chairman, aye. Motion passes. Tell your team thanks.
hey, yeah, thank you guys. Have a great new year.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the new fixed asset and capitalization policy as presented
To retro to
to retro to July 1, 2025.
second.
Been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? Chairman or Chairman? Hey, Chairman.
No.
Commissioner Thiel.
Mr. Chairman, the only correction I think we need to do is at the bottom under the signature part. Update the chairman.
They can do that.
With that correction, I have no more discussion.
No more discussion has been moved and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chairman, aye. Motion carried. We'll be on break till 11 o'clock.
New chairman's on time.
Hey,
Some of those are better.
don't start counting on it. Don't start. counties.
Thanks, Kelly.
Hey, Brian Edwards, Park County Engineer, consider sale of designated properties in Park County.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm gonna kick this over to Ben a little bit. I think we've had some discussions. We had an issue come up where a landowner over north of Franny had a piece of land that he's adjacent to that has an interest in that Park County owns. I don't think for us, we didn't realize that we even owned a piece over there. So that was, I guess, the igniter of this whole conversation is whether we want to consider selling that track, putting it up for auction, or how we want to go about it. And in doing that, I think at least one commissioner had asked about, what other properties are out there that might be worth looking at as far as putting them back in the private sector. So that was I guess the reason for the discussion today. I think at this point, obviously there'd have to be some title searches, appraisals if we want to move down that road. You'd been provided kind of a listing of the county properties. And then I provided what I provided in staff meeting, kind of a summary of about 17 properties that are at least worth looking at. Ben's got some more background or insight on why we may want to consider holding on to some of these as it relates to road maintenance. So Ben, you want to take over?
Yeah, I guess we could start with the one that kind of kicked this off, the one over north of Franny. So Russ Boardman of B/Land Company or Cattle Company approached me about what the county's interest was in this parcel. And so we did a little homework on that, and the county had acquired that via tax deed in 1963. The taxes were delinquent starting in 1959. And ultimately, when you read through this stuff, basically, I think that the treasurer took this deed because no one wanted to buy the land at the time. So it's 1.1 acres. The county, I think I provided this to you, but the county did do a survey of this in 2013. And so it is basically described and monumented at this point in time. The parcel of land is adjacent to YDOT's right away, right on the Wyoming-Montana border. The neighbors are the state of Montana, the Dakota Coal Company, and the B/Land Company. And the parcel is actually currently providing access to the B/Land to that portion of basically it's all irrigated ag land right there, but that's what they're using for access is crossing that county parcel on that section of land. So we were going to do a title commitment on that, but I did a little homework and actually kind of fumbled onto some of our stuff, talking with Trapper in our office. He had done some survey work back when Greg Meineke was the county engineer, and he said, we surveyed that in 2013. So I looked up that stuff, and basically, I don't know why it was surveyed. There was some planning and zoning stuff involved with that. And so I think that had something to do with Dakota Coal Company's facility there. But anyways, I told Mr. Boardman that I would bring this to the board and see if this would be a consideration for sale. And then Commissioner Teal and others expressed interest in other parcels of land. So Brian went through and got a list. I went through and kind of checked deeds briefly and stuff. And there's about 17, I think, different parcels of land that the county owns for different purposes. I think as far as sales and things like that, that would be at the board's discretion as far as what the need or the demand would be to do something like that. But basically going through those, if you had the list that he had, there's 2 parcels on the Willwood. Both of those had something to do with the realignment when we constructed the new bridge through the BROS program. And so there's pieces there that are kind of the result of acquisitions either through the construction of that or the alteration of the road, because the road is not, it's a different alignment now than it was at the time. So those obviously, being close to the bridge and the road are probably things that the county would want to maintain for future improvements or just staging areas during construction periods. There's really no need, most likely, to do anything with those. And there's, when I look through these, just to shorten this up a little bit, there's one on lane 10. And I could not find all the information on that one yet, but it looks to me like the county went in and acquired a portion of land in there from several different landowners for room to improve the road through kind of an S curve. This is lane 10, road 11 and 12 area in Powell, which is the second sheet. The parcel on lane 5, which I believe is a 40-acre parcel, is an unpermitted aged landfill. Was it?
It's called the Kaiser
The
site.
Kaiser site.
Area.
So back in the day, but there has been some monitoring and stuff just in discussions with Brian, but that parcel is just kind of sitting there. When I first saw this one years ago, I was thinking, potential gravel or material source of some sort, but obviously since it's a landfill, that probably eliminates that, but there probably can be some uses for that parcel outside of what we would use. Brian has this little building across the street from our offices over here in the list. I'm sure you're all familiar with that one. There's the Diamond Basin location, which is within the I forgot my glasses today, so I'm kind of feeling cross-eyed here.
Carter View
The
Ranch.
Carter View Ranch, yeah. The county owns a piece that's not within that, which we've in the past used for a material source for different things, mainly the realignment of Diamond Basin. However, the lot that's within, or the 2 lots that are within that Carter View Ranchettes, there's probably some limitations and restrictions on what can be done. We've always thought that that was designated to be a material source, but I believe that, if we chase that down with the county attorney and the planner and stuff, that's probably not the case. So there's 2 lots within that subdivision that are probably, we also have a long-term lease with one of the cell phone towers on, and there was some issues with moving stuff and that. So that was one of them.
Mr. Chair, real quick, I'll say too, on that cell tower, as you probably recall, we ended up having to move that for that reason, because there were restrictions in the covenants of those 2 lots that are in that subdivision, because they were going to put it on that one of the 2 lots up above. And because of that, they ended up sliding it onto the gravel pit.
Chairman?
Yes.
Just a quick question on that. Is it possible? I don't know, deed wise, I guess we could do what we wanted to do, but from the looks of just the picture that we have here so far, we could split those out and just sell that north lot and keep the south lot and the tower location too.
We could and reserve an access.
Right.
For, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, just thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so just looking at the possibilities and the probably not a big appetite to have a active pit right there anyways, but that was kind of something that we discovered was that last year.
Yep.
Basically. The other ones, there's several along Stagecoach Trail. And those I really didn't get to track down too in depth yet, but just at first glance and from what I can see, like with slopes and different types of stuff for the road, I'm sure that there's probably reasons that we got more land on Stagecoach, whether it's to build a toe for a slope or whatever. There's one right there on the intersection of the lower South Fork Road and the South Fork. Brian and I were discussing that. I think really our frontage is along Whiteout, but I think that the majority of that was for that entrance from the county road to Whiteout, and then slope stabilization and just other construction considerations. That's something that's probably beneficial for future road maintenance. 2E is the same thing. There's a little parcel. I mean, it's 1/4 of an acre, I think. There's irrigation district facilities and an intersection with that Partridge Lane, which is part of Rolling Hills private road, subdivision road that intersects. There's 2 of them along Beacon Hill that are the same, that are adjacent to the county's portion of the road and some to the cities. There's one at the intersection of two DAW in the same area. Similar situation where any future improvements, they'd probably be beneficial. Then we get into there's one in Squaw Creek Road, XUX, in the Crandall area where the county has basically the map server says 10.5 acres, and I need to do some more research, but basically I looked up what was deeded to the county during some of the development that happened with the Carries and this Squaw Creek subdivision. During that time, they deeded 4.8 acres is what the deed said to the county, and I believe it was probably for the road alignment pre-YDOT. And so that one we could do some looking at, but most of these are kind of along existing right of ways where they're probably designated for road purposes to the county. Some of them fall within what's now YDOT. The one on the South Fork, there's 5 acres that was, I believe, designated for a future fire hall.
Mr. Chairman.
Up by J Bar 9.
Chairman, I also have a question when we look at these, when we're looking at size and the possibility of sale. I mean, I understand a subdivision lot, but my question would be on some of these, they are not large enough or do not meet our own land use plan. With GR5, GR20, things like that in some of these areas. So if we put them up for sale for a public purchase, are we breaking our own plan or regulation by allowing the sale of something less than what is allowed in that area? Right. Why do you say no?
Manager, I say you wouldn't, because they're not, if you were detaching them from a larger chunk, I would agree. But you're not doing that. It's no different than somebody that broke a chunk off 30 years ago that doesn't fit the GR specific. They can still sell their property.
Grandfathered in is what you're saying,
Yeah.
size wise?
Yeah,
Okay.
as long as we're not breaking it off from a larger part.
You know, just to add on to that too, though, that some of these are undevelopable.
Right,
They are.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
They don't meet the minimum size.
well, or the location, if it's a slope or things like
Sure.
that, understood.
Yeah, the one in Crandall, the one that the Carries deeded to Clark County way back when, that one's completely within the floodplain of the Clarks Fork River. And I mean, it's well within it, so it's pretty restricted. It's got highway frontage on one side, river and trees on the other side, like bank and trees.
River across, or a hill across the river that's prone to slide.
Pretty much.
Mr. Chairman, but I think just because some of these lead parcels are undevelopable doesn't mean that they couldn't be beneficial put back into the tax base by the adjoining landowner. He may be more than happy to have highway frontage just for his own personal property that he made neighbor and 0.22 acres, even though he can never build specific on that and sell it. It may give him access or whatever, for whatever reason. So I think there's value in all these. And if there's absolutely no value to the county in retaining them, that's where I see, why not put them back into to the tax base?
Yeah, certainly. I think you have to figure out what's beneficial for the slopes and the road and what you have to do with the road, because some of them just.
Yeah, and
For sure.
in that instance up there in Crandall, and I'd point out, I guess, this one on the North Fork that's, right next to little tiny words, wagon trail. On the North Fork, that one has already been, that one's on our list, but I was just telling Brian, I kind of went back through some stuff and was just looking at documents, and that one's already been conveyed to YDOT, to the Transportation Commission of Wyoming. Some of these make sense. Beacon will probably make sense. There's some consideration to designate those or to convey those to the party that has the most interest in them, as far as City of Cody, YDOT, whatever.
Brian, go ahead.
I was gonna say that because I asked Ben when we were going through these, because when, like that one that was on Lane 10 is about 8 acres there, but it's a long skinny piece along there. I was like, wouldn't it still be better to get that back in the tax base and then reserve it whatever right away, make sure we have plenty of right away for maintenance for future. But it kind of gets into that discussion, some of those small ones away in the tax, tax benefit from it for property taxes, but then like we're talking about, people may not want to buy it, so it might be a matter of when we talk about appraisal, it may have like almost no value. But if you convey it to somebody, that the adjacent landowner, if nobody else is interested in it, kind of weighing the cost of appraisals and all the other things, the time spent on it. So those are all things that I guess we probably ought to talk about.
Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, we kind of did that for those that have been here for a few years. We did that with the property over on 2AB. If you remember, we had a parcel in there that belonged to the county that we needed to get rid of, and we did that process to allow those two adjacent landowners to deal with it rather than adding a third landowner. So, and it worked pretty well.
Live behind Keel.
Yeah, I think that there's just a whole bunch of different scenarios. A similar one, I guess the last one that I haven't talked about is there's another piece in the actual town of Franny where it's adjacent to all the land around it is town of Franny. And I need to chase that one down and see exactly how that came about, but it's, that one is. I don't know,
That's your number 16 on your list.
not quite half an acre, adjacent to the railroad. I think some of these you could look at them on case by case, but some, I think in the past, like out on 2AB with, Homestead Estates and Keel Sanitation, where we had that one that was in there. I mean, we've done this where people have brought it to our attention, but I don't necessarily. I think it's kind of case by case for sure, but that's kind of what we've discovered on all of those.
Mr. Chairman, in moving forward, we've had interest, at least with the Franny property.
Yes, sir.
I don't want to jump into all of these all at once and start making you guys work a little bit overtime. But if we can work on, maybe see how it works, the Franny property. And like Commissioner Teal was saying, let's put them back into the tax collection business. Don't use Brian as your realtor because he's not talking up the property real good. But I think if you can get maybe an offer, you can start the wheels going, at least on that property, and see how much it does take for us to actually move along and get rid of that property.
Mr. Chair, also the Kaiser site that's on
Lane 5.
lane 5. I'll talk to DEQ a little bit more to see. We should be about at the end of the monitoring. It was a pre-regulation old landfill. But it's 40 acres, so you kind of hate to sit on that forever if it's, and it would all be part of the agreement, the whole liability and who has liability with what's there. That would all have to be worked out, but
Is that the old property out there? It's all fenced in with the pipe and chain and it fenced
it's
in?
been a while since I've been out there. I don't
it
think
is.
there's much anything visible, is there?
No,
If-
it's all scrub brush and.
I thought that was a chunk that had the fence
It
around.
might have that. I'm
It
trying
may,
to remember.
I don't remember the fence.
Mr. Chairman, I was just gonna say that I kind of like the discussion we had in work session about the possibility of the auction situation. We know that there's a little bit of a fee involved there, but then we are not worried about the advertising and the collection and the bid opening and all that kind of thing. It's taken care of through that auction, and the public has ample view of what's available. I think that's a process we've used on a couple of things, and as long as there are clear parcels that can be sold to anyone in the public, then that would work.
And Mr. Chair, that might be something we probably bounce off the county attorney as well. Just,
Yeah.
I don't know since I've been here if we've done that way we've obviously done
Property.
equipment, a lot of things, but I haven't seen us do property that way. So that might be just to bounce it off him to make sure we're solid there.
Okay,
Any other discussion? Do we want to take a look at that single piece of property in Franny now, or do we want to?
I think we move forward with that one at least.
Yeah.
We have the information that we need as far as a designated surveyed piece of property with legal access.
An interest in the property, and I think the interest there is access, just kind of locking that down.
Mr. Chairman, that was my other question. You said that they're using that parcel for access into another parcel that they're using for ag. If that original parcel that we're looking at selling sells to somebody else, does that landlock anybody else?
No, I think we'd have that conversation because I believe it's kind of our next topic is kind of a similar thing where it's almost prescriptive in nature. I mean, I don't want to get into legal stuff, but if somebody's using it, it's almost, does the county have an obligation or is the county willing to reserve an access across that?
Something to look at with you.
Yeah, which I think we would almost be required to reserve an access so that we don't landlock somebody. I think that's almost a statutory thing. I get out of the league, but
Looking at the property, it does it really even, doesn't even look developable.
It's not.
he's saying just for
really,
access, right?
It's basically, everything behind it. You have Dakota Coal to the west and the south, and then B/ Cattle is to the east and south. Just basically, this little no man's land, and everybody's kind of wondering, we've been using the access. I didn't realize that the whiteout right away had widened there. There's a bridge structure right there on
Right.
that. And so basically, I think that width there is for that structure, which they're whiteout recently surveyed. And I think that they're actually looking at replacing that. So I think there's just enough activity to, this guy's like, I probably need to figure out what, how do I secure this access?
So, Mr. Chair, do we need a motion then to have for attorney review, for legal review? In the process, or can we just say, for the bid process? Or do you need a formal motion to?
I don't know how formal, maybe hands it, I guess just direction that we could move forward with, working with the county attorney, the appraisal. Cause I think, seems like on the past ones, we've set like a minimum, based on the appraised value or something like that, and then maybe a title search and then get it advertised. I guess if that's where you think we're at, we could go ahead and,
I just
Get the
hate
ball
to see
rolling.
us spend more money than we'll get for it.
yeah, no, I'm with you.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to consider that the property they're calling it property 16, just because they're in the close proximity of each other, and you don't see any reason why that 2 acres right there in the town of Franny, I mean, it could possibly have value,
Yeah.
and if anybody is interested, or we have to do anything, you're already there. It's not like making a special trip up Crandall and doing one in Frandy if we're, let's do a twofer.
Obviously, sell them separate though.
Oh, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I don't know, maybe you could generate some interest if somebody wants one or the other.
Might. That makes
I'm
sense.
not a salesman.
Big land sale in Franny, Wyoming.
Look at those two.
Yeah, that's good.
And I'll find out a little more on that Kaiser site, but we could regroup on that one.
That sounds good. That's pretty viable.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, you're up again. Considering granting the access easement at the Park County Sewer Lagoon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we were approached by a private landowner that has property north of our county sewer lagoons at our current location. And about that they're in the process of selling their property and wanted to, knowing that we're in the process of getting out of that facility as far as being our county place for septage management. They approached us about seeing if the county be willing to grant an access easement for their property. Some of the easements there are a little bit confusing. And so I'll kind of turn that over to Ben, but that's the subject of this, is they're wanting access to their property.
Yes. So Ron and Yvonne Laughlin have lived at this location for 20-something years down there. And I guess I could backtrack just a little bit. Back in 2021, Carlos Rivera and Mark Nelson approached the county about this same easement to this facility, which Nelson's now own a piece that they purchased from Laughlin's for a business that they had down there. And it never really materialized, and we never finalized anything on the county lands, but the Nelsons and Carlos and the Laughlins did secure an easement from, at the time, it was Chuck Balshini, which is now on the Bingenheimer lands on this, on the map that I don't know if you guys have it. I did bring some extras if you don't. Anyways, so they basically established their easements off of West Rocky Road, which is the city of Cody right of way, all the way to Valshini, and then they established it across Valshini. All of this kind of happened based on some assumptions that the fence line for the sewer lagoons was the property line, which was not the case. We had some access issues of our own for our facility with the current owners. And we had that surveyed and we had the property line surveyed, and it was basically discovered that the easement on the north-south running property line that they obtained from Valshini really isn't in use because the road isn't in that location. They're using the existing physical road, and that's on county land. So basically their request is just to kind of nail down the right of way and access to their property across county lands. And also they've offered and prepared an easement which would actually give the county an easement on Laughlin's, basically from the street, which is in the Green Acres mobile home thing, across to, so there's some exchanging going on, or in kind stuff going on here, but that's the meat and potatoes here, is that they're just trying to secure that. They believe they're trying to sell their property, and they just want to get that nailed down because there's been all sorts of legal stuff down there.
Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, so Ben, the easement, I'm looking at the map that you sent for
Okay,
Sharp,
yep,
right? So you
yep.
got the easement from Laughlin to the county. What exists to the, would that be east?
East, yep. So the easement that their surveyor, Morrison Merrily, provided, they actually provided it all the way from, this was something that I had created, and they actually went further and went all the way over. And it actually is a better deal for us, honestly.
But my point is, is there currently an easement, public easement from the east of what our requested easement is from them? So what does it gain us accessing?
So the current one that they provided us through their surveyor does provide all the way over to, and I can't even remember the name of that street over there.
Yes, it's in the city, but I don't.
There's several streets over there, but what they have proposed or provided to us in exchange does provide the county an easement from.
So that's my
Yep.
question there.
Yep.
So it doesn't just end.
So this
It
white
doesn't
is
just
not,
end. There's already an
Yep.
existing
connect to it.
easement to the east that would access public land.
It would connect
Not
to an
public
existing
easement, a
public
easement
yes,
already exists that way. So it now would basically, for further development, it would allow public to loop
Yep.
if you need, or drive close through. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, so in that, I don't know the future of this parcel, but honestly, what they provided and proposed is better than what we had talked about in 2021. So I think on that side of things, it's probably a win for us. And again, getting into the legal stuff, they've used this road, everybody's used this road for so long. The prescriptive word gets thrown out there, but to nail everything down and clean it up, kind of what our office recommends is granting the primary access easement, not the secondary, and requesting conditional on our approval is that they vacate that portion of the easement that's on the Bingenheimer lands. It's not in use, and it takes it out of play, and everybody has access, and it's not causing harm or.
So,
Commissioner.
Mr. Chair, so what is the width of this easement that they're considering?
I need to talk to their surveyor about it, because I want to be certain that the physical road is included. So I'm going to throw out there that it's probably going to be on that north-south line. That portion's probably going to be at least 50. Just guessing from where the property line is to catch the full width of the road to our fence line that's around our lagoons. I think it's going to be in that 50 range, but I can dial
Mr.
that.
Chairman, Ben, why wouldn't we require a 60, which is our standard.
We're not developing anything. We're just-
Yet, but we know that in the future, that is the
Potentially
idea for
somebody
the,
could, if the county's looking for development or wanting to plan for that, we definitely could leave a 60.
Mr. Chairman, that's also our land to the
Yeah.
east, so we could add to it if we
but then
propose
if
to
we get
develop
bottleneck here,
on the white.
right? I'm just
I
saying.
mean, if
make
it narrows on the white, if it goes,
Make it all consistent with 60-foot easement.
Well, Mr. Chairman, on the white,
Yes, ma'am.
or just south of that. Yes, just south of that is still county, right?
Yes.
So we can add to that if we need to ourselves. We could make it 60 feet if it turns out that we look at
Or. go ahead.
updating and selling that land, I guess is what I'm looking at, or developing that land. Somebody develops that land. We have the ability to add to that easement if we need it to be a collector street or something like that.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I understand that. it would be to make a straight line. Why not do it all at the same time?
Cause we almost ended up with that one subdivision where it bottlenecked down. Well, we did. But if we had it 50 all the way across or 60, whatever.
50, which is our standard, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, it's on our land, so I guess we could make it 60.
It is. I think that the restrictive part, so the county's easement that crosses the Bingenheimer lands right now is 25 feet. So there's already a bottleneck on this. Anything, anything that we would want to, if we wanted to continue on 60, we would have to basically negotiate 60 from Laughlin's and Nelson's at this time.
But in
Everything
turn, we're
else we
giving
can-
them 60 on the west side of ours.
Yes. But I still think that it's, as far as them developing based off of that, there's gonna be some issues with the easement that they negotiated with Balshini originally across Balshini's, which is now Bingenheimer, was 30 feet. So theirs is actually 5 feet wider than the county's on that east-west or the south boundary of Bingenheimer there. So there's some
Mr.
Some
Commissioner Chair.
issues.
But
Sure.
Ben, I thought you said that part of the deal was then that would get vacated,
That would just be the
the
north-south portion. That's not gonna be used. But they are using this southerly, and I did not throw on this stuff down here. I didn't wanna like
Oh,
clutter, but I can definitely update this with,
What's the width of this one? then?
for the county's is 25 and the Nelson's Laughlin's is 30.
oh, so there is no 60 feet to get to
Yeah,
this.
There's no,
60 feet.
so there's already a restriction on coming in from the west
From
side.
the east,
From the east, there's
right here.
definitely potential for that.
Oh,
Is that, some of that's on Bingenheimer and some of it's. on
Mr.
county,
Chair.
but it's-
Good.
I do whatever we can. I have to agree with Commissioner Till that whatever we can, trying to reserve and think far enough ahead to have those easements in place, because boy, it's a nightmare to go back and try to hit them later, and then even when somebody's developed and we become the bad guy because they can't get enough easement, we won't allow a road, so.
Is it possible, Brian, that I'm gonna use the white part and the lavender part, at least on the north edge. We can propose 60 and some of that can come from them and some from us. Because
Yeah.
we own the stuff
There could be a little,
south of that.
a little jog.
But
in
at
it.
least that way we've got 60 feet coming across it. And then maybe to the south until we get to the bottleneck part, which we could deal with later.
Question, Brian, are they willing to pay for the surveying?
Yes, in fact, they've engaged a surveyor that is working on the exhibit, so yes.
And, Mr. Chairman, I do think that we are pretty much all in agreement, though, that the green secondary access is out. Okay,
I agree.
I definitely think that. But if they're willing to go 60 on their portion to whatever straight line to make that, and then we do the same on our sides, I would think that it would be a good for everybody, but.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, so do you need a formal action on it, or do we just need to direct them to go back to, I guess it would be Laughlin's to negotiate? that part.
Yeah, I think at this point it would be, going back to the Laughlins and them, and obviously a lot of involvement from the county attorney on that exhibit. You know, we could, I think that would come back to the commissioners anyway. Yeah, obviously on that. So, yeah, guess it's just a direction to move forward with, negotiating an easement.
Is everybody okay with them going to the commissioners or going to the county attorney and?
And he's
propose that to-
been involved too, Mr. Chair. The county attorney's looked at this.
And propose that 60 feet to the Laughlins.
We could take that back to them and look at it. I think that they're probably good with about anything as long as it fits the, as long as there's no improvements or infrastructure, we got to make sure that we're not stepping on something.
Yeah, I'd say take it to county attorney and bring it back.
Will do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next we have Joe Tilden. Back Lake Challenge. Good, Joe.
You ready?
Yep. Yep, we're ready.
Yes.
Well, Scott, I see you got the additional sign there, so congratulations.
I got the old horn.
Well, anyway, I want to thank you for your time today. I appreciate it. And I presume you all got a copy of the letter that we're asking you to support.
I didn't.
You didn't?
Didn't see it.
Somebody dropped the ball. But anyway, I won't read it, but basically what we're asking you to do is give us a letter of support for our Beck Lake Challenge. This is the Cody Medical Foundation. I'll give you a really brief history of the Cody Medical Foundation. It was established in 1955 by W.R. Coe and his family. And basically the hospital at that point in time was operating at a deficit. And so he started basically the Coe Medical Foundation to fill the gap in that deficit. And then in 1976, the name was changed to the Cody Medical Foundation. We've got an endowment of about $1.5 million, and we give away between $80,000 and $100,000 a year. And our charter is to enhance the medical community of West Park Hospital District, which basically encompasses all of Cody and all of Meeting. So that gives you a brief rundown of what we do. And the Beck Lake Challenge was started, I think it was 16 years ago, in an effort to bring more awareness to mental health issues. As all you county commissioners know, as I know, Title 25 is a big problem. Scott, you know better than anybody. And, I won't get on my soapbox about Title 25. I may, but anyway, the problem in the state of Wyoming, as we all know, mental illness is a big, big problem. And I don't know the actual statistics, but I bet we're right at the top of the heap as far as the number of suicide and mental illness problems in the nation on a per capita basis. And Title 25 costs the county a lot of money. So basically what we're looking to do is just bring more awareness to mental health. Let people know that where they can go to get help if they need it. And so we're changing the name from the Beck Lake Challenge to the Park County Mental Health Awareness Walk. And all I'm asking for is your support. If you want to be a sponsor, I'd love for you to be a sponsor, but I understand the ramifications of that. So basically, we just want your support, and your letter of support, we'll use it in advertising for the event. And hopefully we can get more people involved in the event. We've got some other partners coming online, and so I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Mr. Chair.
Mr.
I did have some conversation because I was a member of the Cody Medical Foundation Board with Commissioner Tilden and Marty Coe, and do have a copy of the letter, and it may be my dropping of the ball. I did send it, but then yesterday when I looked at the agenda, I didn't make sure that it was in there. So if it's okay, can I read the letter so people can, you guys can hear it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so statement of support from the Park County Board of County Commissioners. The Park County Board of County Commissioners formally expresses its strong support for the Cody Medical Foundation and its continued leadership in advancing mental health awareness through the Park County Mental Health Awareness Walk, formerly known as the Beck Lake Challenge. For 16 years, this event has served as a significant and purposeful gathering within our community, dedicated to elevating understanding of mental health, reducing stigma, and honoring the memory of David Bank. Through this walk, residents come together in recognition of the profound impact mental health challenges can have on individuals, families, and the broader community. Following the walk, attendees have the opportunity to hear from mental health professionals and local service agencies who provide essential information regarding available resources and support services. These presentations play an important role in enhancing public awareness, encouraging early intervention, and strengthening the community's capacity to respond to mental health needs with knowledge and compassion. Mental health remains a critical public concern that affects all communities, including Park County. The board commends the Cody Medical Foundation for its longstanding commitment to this cause and for fostering an environment in which mental health can be discussed with openness, respect, and dignity. The Park County Board of County Commissioners fully supports the Park County Mental Health Awareness Walk and encourages all residents to participate, engage with the resources provided, and join us in promoting mental wellness throughout our county. Signed by the Park County Board of County Commissioners.
Mr. Chair, when is it?
What does it say? The second?
I think it's the second Saturday of
Second
June.
Saturday in June, whatever that date is.
It's annual, it happens annually.
And I'll just add one more thing. The big problem with mental health, especially in Wyoming, is there's still a lot of people around that don't believe mental health is a disease. And in particular, a lot of our leaders down in Cheyenne, they still don't think it's a disease. They think, oh, somebody has mental illness or just wacko, put them away and lock them up and throw the key away. And that's not the case.
Well, the funny thing about it is I spent 18 years down in legislation trying to get the legislators to do something about it. And they all sit there and tell you, oh yeah, it's got to be done. It's got to be done. And nobody does anything.
Well,
And then we spend 230 some million to redo the hospital and get one bed.
Mm-hmm. Well, the biggest problem, and in particular in Cheyenne, and I did a lot of lobbying down in Cheyenne for Title 25. And the people down there, they don't understand it and they don't want to understand it. The last meaningful legislation that was passed was the gatekeeper legislation, which was an absolute failure. Has not worked. And in theory, it should work, but there was no follow-up on it. So anyway, I'm getting on the box now. I'll get off.
And ironically, Title 25 is probably what loses more detention officers down there than anything.
Mm-hmm.
So they just get wore out with it.
No.
Yeah.
I remember I used to ask legislators, I'd like to talk to you about Title 25, and they give you this dumb stare and say, what's that?
Yeah.
They don't know what it is and they don't care to know what it is. And they just refuse to address it. And it costs the county hundreds and hundreds of thousands of
Millions.
Personally, the state should pick up the tab. But anyway.
That's what Brian I've been pushing.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that the Park County Board of County Commissioners sign the letter.
Second.
Moving second. Any other discussion?
Just a point, I've brought that up many times, and even it just seems prehistoric that how we deal with people who are eligible for Title 25. Just throwing them in jail or putting a person outside of a hospital room to watch for suicide. It just doesn't seem right. And I know that we've had some past legislators who aren't in there anymore who tried to get each county to have like a trained psychologist, and it never, ever passed. They never got the money for it. So I'm certainly supporting something like this. So just a point.
Yeah.
I'll get on your soapbox.
Mr. Chair, just to commend the work of the Cody Medical Foundation. They've worked hard on this for, like we said, 16 years. And I know it's a lot of work and they spend a lot of hours on it. And I think it's a great thing for our community to bring awareness. And so I just want to tell them thank you for the work on it.
Trust me, I cooked a lot of hamburgers.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for the work.
Mr. Chair,
Mhm.
move to adjourn.
Second.
Then move in second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
I.